very warm good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Evening Review Show. I'm your host, Matthias Aufiko. Well, aviation matters have been making headlines over the past few weeks. Of course, that was to the build-up to the International Civil Aviation Organization's audit of the country, and just to measure how we are faring as far as keeping in touch with global standards is concerned. We're joined in studio tonight by Mr. Kamati, the spokesperson of the Namibia Airports Company. Good evening and welcome, sir.
Good evening and good evening to the viewers.
Yeah, very well. Well, of course, earlier today, the Namibia Civil Aviation Authority had a media briefing to reveal to the public the outcome of the Universal Safety Oversight Audit Program. It was, of course, conducted by ICAO, just to tell the public as to how we are doing in that space. I know you walked into the studio with a smile. Can you maybe just give us a brief summary as to the outcome of this morning's briefing?
Yes, yes. Thank you for the opportunity, and it's quite interesting because in 2016 I was there when the country scored 57%. That was below the pass rate of the International Civil Aviation Authority on the safety audit that was carried out then. We all know what happened at Hosea Kutako International Airport. Airlines that were meant to come to Namibia had to divert to other neighboring countries, and it was a terrible time in the history of Namibia as a country and in the history of the Namibia Airports Company. And now we are in 2024, the safety audit again, and as a country, Namibia have done so well to score a 72%, which is really incredible, and thanks to all the stakeholders that have pulled it off.
Yeah. You mentioned the 72%. I was reading through the statement earlier on that was delivered this morning, and 72% is above average of the global average. In terms of preparations for this audit, and we hope it's not something that's going to end there now. How much work was put into this? Perhaps we don't really appreciate the work that was being done in the background for you to reach this milestone as the NAC.
Yes, look, there were reports, of course, in the Namibian Sun that, like you said, that probably the country was not ready and certain things were not in place. But we time and again assured through our CEO that Namibia is ready. The airports company, of course, as the focal point is ready because, of course, we know that once all the other systems have failed, it's your international airport that is downgraded, as it happened in 2016. This time around, since that time, obviously the last 2 years, the Deputy Prime Minister, now the Minister of Works and Transport, Mr. John Mutora, Honorable John Mutora, then set in motion the preparations for this, of course, through the Line Ministry, Esther Kapanda, the Executive Director, and all the other stakeholders involved, your Namibia Civil Aviation Authority. Of course, they are the regulator. They ensure that all the safety and security and all the related aspects of aviation are up to standard in terms of the Namibia Civil Aviation Regulations, NAMCARs. And the stakeholders, we're talking of Namibia Airports Company, your airline, Fly Namibia at the moment in the country. We're talking about so many other stakeholders. And really, it was that moment for the past 2 years, especially last year, that the stakeholders really stepped up and intensified their efforts to make sure that this year, when the audit starts in March, because these things are not a surprise. You know already when are these people coming back, when is the audit going to happen, and you should prepare. And it's not really to prepare in anticipation of that audit only. It's to prepare for you to be on top of your game as a country, because safety and security is very, very key when it comes to aviation. And you always want to have those standards up there to make sure that there is confidence in your processes, there is confidence in your facilities, and that's really what Namibia have done. And they have so much work that have been done. And since the 6th of March up to the 18th yesterday, when the safety audit took place, some of my colleagues haven't really slept because you have to go around, answer questions, because it's an audit. So, and all the other stakeholders that were involved. So we're really grateful that this time around, as a country, we have pulled it off. And of course, going forward, there are corrective action plans in place to cover up the 28%, because it should be 100%. But of course, it's not cast a stone, but you need to push yourself, and that is really what we're trying to do before the next audit. So we continue to evolve and really try to change things and make sure that the situation improves for our aviation sector.
Yeah. Of course, you've mentioned that there are corrective measures in place. With the audit now said and done, what measures from an institutional point of view does the NAC team have in place to ensure that going forward we won't be caught off guard like we were in 2016? Because it's very easy to now put your tools down and say we've done this.
I think we have a very good board, of course, starting from the line ministry. The guidance, the support in terms of financial support from the shareholder is very strong. More than ever, the board of directors, the executive management of the airports company under the tutelage of Mr. BC Wirap, I think we have done a lot. And if you look at the whole audit, when you consider the critical elements of the Namibia civil aviation systems that were audited, the scores there, and also when you look at specific to us, probably if you look at the aerodrome and ground aids, where we scored 72.58%, and then you look at airworthiness of aircraft, so that's your Fly Namibia in the country at 74%, flight operations, Fly Namibia 67%. So as a country, we have really done so well because most of these percentages, effective implementations, are over 60, which is really good, and it just goes to show that when we are committed, when we use resources wisely, things can move in the right direction. So it's about utilizing the resources optimally, and really just getting the right people in the right places and to push and make sure that every day, like I said, it's not just in preparation for the audit. It's basically just for you to keep up with the international standards, and those standards, of course, are represented in the national standards, the NAMCARs, the Namibia Civil Aviation Regulations.
Yeah.
And we need to keep up with that every day of our lives. And aviation is a very highly regulated sector, and rightly so, because people's lives are at risk. And that's why as airports company, we are doing what we have to do in as far as those caps, the corrective action plans are concerned, to make sure that issues of training, issues of markings, and issues of vehicle and so on are addressed as a matter of urgency, as it always has been.
Yeah. Because I see here under the outcomes of critical elements, if I have to mention at least or point out two of the areas that scored above average but not that high, the issue of surveillance obligations, that was around just over 52%, safety resolutions just about 56%. So still a long way to go, especially for those two.
Yes, it's still a long way to go, and like I said, that's why overall the score comes at 72, because there are certain issues that as a country we should still improve on. Because if you look at those critical elements, for instance, now the things that we're talking about here, your primary legislation. So those are the NAMCARs that I'm talking about, that the Namibia Civil Aviation Authority have really captured the international standards and procedures that should be entailed in the NAMCARs, in the Namibia Civil Aviation Authority regulations, to make sure that all the stakeholders in the sector understands what their roles are and try to live up with that. And I think if you look at that, it's 86% of that primary legislation. That is very key, and really it shows that the documents are there. It's just about the implementation and getting to the deeds of it.
Yeah. We are aware that the government last year instituted a high-level committee to deal with this matter. Did it have to take a committee to get NAC up to par with this, or is there a specific explanation for that?
And yes, so it's not just NAC; it's the country that was supposed to get to that par that you're talking about. And again, I would say, government is the shareholder of most of these agencies and these companies, especially Namibia Airports Company, and it was important for that support from central government to say, we are here, whatever support you need right now in the penultimate stages of the audit. We are here. What do you need? So that, because it's always good when you know that you have that begging from your shareholder, from your funder, and it was critical for us to have that. And it's not necessary, of course, that you would put it that way, that was it necessary, but it's just some of those conditions that should be there. There should be support, and once you are supported, you know that you can do what you should do because the support is there and you are not doing things in isolation. So that political support is always very, very important and very, very key when state agencies, state organizations, state-run organizations like the Namibia Ports Company, Namibia Civil Aviation Authority, and so on, and all the other stakeholders that are involved, private Fly Namibia, for instance, they also need that political support to say, yes, this we are in Namibia, there is a government and there is support from the government to ensure that we do well for the country. But because remember, it could have been catastrophic for the country to be downgraded, and then tourists are not coming through, and that have a ripple effect on the economic situation in the country, because we all know how big tourism is in this country.
So from an airport management perspective, how do you see the dynamics in the aviation, in the domestic aviation sector playing out as far as growth is concerned?
The growth is very promising. Of course, when was it? Earlier this year, we released the stats for Lüderitz Airport. It's incredible that it has been one of our dormant airports, so to speak, and with the advent of gas and oil discoveries in the area, they are Monday to Friday flights every day for service by Fly Namibia to Lüderitz from Windhoek, and that is incredible. I mean, it's something that have not happened before in the Lüderitz area, and we are really hopeful that it will continue. And as well, if you look at your Katima Mulilo, your Rundu, Walvis Bay, and Ndangwa airports as well, of course, the flagship airport, Hosea Kutako, of course, after COVID, you can see that there is now, we're getting there. The trajectory is very promising, and we're really grateful for all the stakeholders, especially the airlines. Of course, Lufthansa with their Discover flagship subsidiary, of course, they now have 2 flights every day to Windhoek from their hub in Frankfurt, which is very promising. And of course, it goes to show that there is a market. And of course, we know that Namibia source market, as far as tourism is concerned, is that area, the Schengen area, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and so on. So Lufthansa, Discover coming from there, 2 days, 2 flights a day, that is very promising. And we are hopeful that things can only get better, because we recently, last week, also launched the Air Connect Namibia initiative with various stakeholders, and that is also to again say, come to Namibia, let's open up Namibia, let's treat our guests in a very memorable way, and that is really the spirit to take the country forward.
Of course, one of the issues that, as far as aviation is concerned, to the man on the street is always, and I know it's not really something that's within your control, the cost thereof for passenger traveling, especially locally. That's always been an issue in the talks, especially on the streets and so on. What do you think as stakeholders in this very critical industry? What would you say is the remedy going forward for this? I mean, I know over the years we've struggled with domestic tourists as far as visiting tourist establishment is concerned. It's actually a similar scenario to flying. What would you say is the long-term remedy to this situation?
I think the education is there. The education is ongoing. We all know, I can again reiterate that flying is the safest mode of traveling. It's very quick as well, and so the benefits are there. It's just about getting the right prices at the right moment and really going around the country, because 1 hour to Ndangwa, it's in less than 45 minutes to Walvis Bay from Windhoek. That is incredible, and that's something that we should all embrace and or join hands and try to see where we can stimulate the growth of local traveling, because it's very key that the routes, because for an airline, it's always good to have numbers. You always have to have that interest from the populace to say we want to travel where, and that consistency as well comes into play if you have consistent traveling or consistent demand or interest from the inhabitants. So it's very critical that we stimulate this growth together, and that's why with iConnect Namibia we came together and say, as partners, let's try to see how do we get tourists into the country, and also then sort of increase the interest and the demand locally to travel around, to fly around as well, which can also then be a good omen for the domestic carrier as well.
Yeah. Mr. Kamati, we head for a short commercial break, and we'll be back to continue this conversation. To our viewers, we head for a short break. Stay tuned. Well, welcome back from the short break. Mr. Kamati, just as the final segment on the show, the way forward, short term, medium term, long term, what are some of the NAC's key plans going forward?
We remain very committed as airports company. We remain very committed to optimally utilize the national resources that we get from the shareholder to develop and manage airports in this country. And we are still on that drive to make sure that we deliver for Namibia's prosperity. We have invested a lot. Of course, we know the big project that happened at Hosea 2 or so years ago, the 250 million expansion project of the airport. And we are reaping the fruits of that. We are also implementing the queue system now. What that means is that when you get to the airport, we are trying to reduce the queues at the check-in counters. Whereas what we mean by that is to say, if Lufthansa is checking in, they might as well, if they have enough capacity in terms of personnel, use all the check-in counters. So that's a possibility now. So we have invested in that software as well to make sure that really we keep up with the times, and that's what is that is key for us to enhance your experience at the airport, and we remain really steadfast on that. And of course, all the other airports across the country as well, we, of course, together with the shareholder, we're looking at how we can get funding for improvements of services and facilities at the other airports as well. Like I said, Lufthansa is booming now. There's a lot of traffic every day from Monday to Friday. There's an aircraft or 2 or 3 going to the south. And then, of course, we know Ndangwa is also serviced by Fly Namibia, Rundu, and Katima Molelo as well from their hub at Eros Airport. So we remain committed to really making sure that we have systems and processes in place that work and deliver for Namibia's prosperity.
So in terms of benchmarking, the audit aside, of course, I'm sure there are other elements that you're probably looking at as far as from your competitors and also those that you collaborate with, whether it's at a regional level, continental or international level. What are some of those areas that you're looking at?
Yes, we recently, or mid last year, we won the hosting rights for the Def Africa conference. That is Aviation Development Conference. It will be happening in Windhoek. We'll be hosting it, Namibia Airports Company, at the at Mercure Hotel in Windhoek from 19 to 21 June. So again, it's one of those initiatives that we have undertaken as airports company to stimulate and drive and intensify traffic coming into Namibia. And we are bringing together a lot of airport executives, over 35 airlines executives are coming through to Windhoek to be with us and share with us, and for us to have an opportunity as well as Namibia, together with our other stakeholders in the country, to sell them Namibia and what this beautiful country have to offer. And really, it's those collaborations, those initiatives, and again the one that we launched last year, Connect Namibia, and of course our visits to other road service development platforms where we frequently go to ensure that in the long run, and these things don't really happen overnight, because remember, for an airline to come to Windhoek, to Namibia, it has to make business sense, and business sense is to say there are numbers from their hub or from where they are coming from, their country of origin, for them to come here. So it will take time. It's about numbers. It's about doing research for these airlines. But what we are trying to do with Aviadef Africa conference in May is to bring the executives here so that we sell Namibia as a destination to them, so that they can also then try to put that together, to put something together at their respective airlines and say, let's take you to Namibia from wherever they are traveling from their respective hubs around the world. So it's very critical for us to have that support from every Namibian as we get down on this journey of really trying to get people traveling to Namibia for leisure or for business. So it's very critical that we have the support of everyone, and it was very evident that we work together with all the stakeholders in making sure that we pass the safety audit as a country, and going forward, that collaboration and more is really what we need as a nation.
Of course, just as we wrap up, we do know that the aviation industry is one that's very technically and skills intensive. For the NAC, for your operations, how are you managing this? We know there are several skills-intensive industries that really rely on foreign skills, on experts to come and fill that gap. How has it been for the NAC as far as your operations are concerned?
Yes, of course, like I said earlier, we are in a highly regulated industry. The sector is very highly regulated, and for that sense, of course, we need a lot of specialists as well, and but in the long and short of it, I think we have managed that very well as airports company. We have trained our own engineers. They were funded by the Namibia Airports Company to complete their studies, and they are now part of the system. They are now engineers within the organization, and we continue to recruit firefighters. That is very critical to our operations, because it determines the firefighting categories of each of our respective aerodromes of our airports across the country. Of course, we are in charge of 8 national airports that we are managing and developing for the people of Namibia. And it's very important that we have the necessary manpower at these airports for any eventualities. And I think we have managed that so far very well, and we continue to do so under the leadership of Mr. Wirap, and of course the support from the board and from the shareholder, from the Ministry of Works and all the other stakeholders. So it's a very, so to speak, good time now for the Namibia Airports Company. The last 7, 8 going to 9, probably 10 years now, things are really on the roll, and we hope it stays that way, because it's a very sensitive sector, and you always need to be on the ball and really also have serviceable equipment in as far as your fire trucks are concerned. And that is something also that we keep spending money on, and really going forward, we will continue to garner for more resources, being it financial, personnel, or otherwise, to make sure that we keep up with the operations of developing and managing airports for the Namibian people.
Well, Mr. Kamati, let me thank you for coming through tonight, and we wish you well, you and your team, with the work ahead.
Thank you very much, and good evening.
Thank you very much. Well, to our viewers, that is from the Evening Review team. See you again tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a pleasant evening.